Alrighty, some more will be joining as speakers, but we're good to start now at least. So everyone, welcome to our May edition of our community calls. Polkadot community calls take place the second week every month to just update the community on everything new in the ecosystem, everything from governance and treasury proposals and motions to new ecosystem teams, new parachains being onboarded, new treasury proposals being funded, and then also it's an opportunity to hear from some of the developers at Parity Technologies or at Web3 Foundation who are working on the network and what's the latest with Polkadot. So today, what you can expect is off the bat, we'll have Acala, Dan Reeser from Acala here, introduce their XCM channels and their XCM use cases, and maybe even discuss the liquidity proposal that they currently have for Karura on Kusama. Then we'll have Moonbeam discuss their XCM use cases and their channel with Acala that should be opening soon, TM. Then we'll have Sean Tabrizi, Parity Tech core engineer, talk about parachain swapping and what that is, as well as XCM, as it is a new feature that was just added to the network last week. Then Joe Petrowski, protocol engineer, protocol integrations engineer over at Web3 Foundation, will discuss Statemint, which is a common good parachain on Polkadot that also received an upgrade last week, enabling its full, not full, I shouldn't say, but enabling more functionality. And he'll also discuss what we can expect in the future from Statemint. Afterwards, we'll have Momentum talk about their Kusamaverse, which was funded by the Kusama Treasury as a metaverse for Kusama. Really exciting stuff that's actually going to go live on May 25th. Afterwards, we'll hand it over to Santi from Parity Tech, BD, and he will discuss Square One, which is your go-to place for all things substrate documentation and so on, but he'll more on that later. Supercolony is with us today, and they will discuss their Wasm Conference, which was funded by the Treasury, and tell you a little bit more about that. I'm going to say this name wrong. I should have. Imbue Network is joining. They are a new Substrate builders team. They'll talk about what they are building on Substrate. We have Nova Wallet joining us to discuss Nova Wallet, their current features and what to expect. We have Polkadot and Kusama council member Raul joining us to discuss the latest governance proposals and what has been happening on both networks for the last month. There was a lot of governance proposals, a lot of referenda, and a bunch of treasury news. So he'll discuss that as well. And then last but not least, we have Polkadex to discuss their parachain that actually recently won an auction slot that will go live later in the next lease period. They were also a Web3 Foundation grant recipient, and so they'll introduce their parachain. So that is what you can expect from today's call. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Dan Reeser from Acala to talk about, Acala and Karura.
Awesome. Quite the agenda. It sounds like we have like 30 seconds each, so I'll try to make it quick. So yeah, like Emily just said, we've been working with Moonbeam and actually a lot of other teams to get our HRMP channels set up, which is basically what allows one parachain to send tokens and data to another parachain. This is enabled by XCM, which cross consensus messaging, which just went live last week. One thing that we've actually been able to do as a benefit is just move a lot faster on the Polkadot side because we've already done so many HRMP channels on the Kusama side. So Kusama kind of doing its job there, which has been amazing. As far as XCM use cases, one thing that's kind of an obvious one is AUSD, so our over-collateralized and decentralized stablecoin that we've built for the Polkadot ecosystem. So this will start to flow across chain to other parachain ecosystems. So with Moonbeam, for example, I know they're going to have a lot of dexes like Stella Swap and money markets. For example, Moonwell, you could start to see AUSD lending or listing on pools, for example, on those apps. But definitely not limited to one chain. So we're working with several other parachain teams around the ecosystem, like Astar and Mangata X on the Kusama side, Composable, even Affinity using AUSD on their marketplace. So a lot of really kind of cool and exciting things about to come with just token transfers as well as multi-chain dApps that are being built. And then Katie can probably expand on that as well when she talks next. The other thing Emily mentioned was the proposal. So Betty Chen, one of our co-founders, has been working on a proposal on the Kusama side as a kind of a proof of concept along with the Kusama treasury to begin using the treasury to help kind of grow and kind of ignite activity on Kusama parachains. Like we saw with Avalanche Rush, these incentive programs do bring a lot of users and activity. They did a great job on theirs, and what this is instead of using foundation assets like the Avalanche Foundation to give AVAX rewards that people are most likely going to just sell off for stablecoins anyway. What we're looking to do is allow the Kusama Treasury to retain its assets, its KSM, and issue AUSD from the KSM that is being issued by the Treasury. This is the first time this has ever happened in the ecosystem. So going to be really cool to watch. And then as this POC develops, we're also working with basically all live or soon to be live parachains on Polkadot and Kusama on a much bigger treasury proposal to help kind of bootstrap a lot of these parachains and dApps around the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem. So that on the Kusama side, this proof of concept treasury proposal is actually up for vote right now. So if people have KSM and want to go vote for that, that would be much appreciated. So that's it for me. Thanks for having me on, Emily and everyone. And I guess I'll hand it over to you and Katie.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for joining us today. Yes, Katie. We also have Katie here from Moonbeam to talk about XCM and their channel with Acala and their use cases now that will be going live soon.
Thanks, guys. I'll echo a lot of Dan's comments here, but basically, momentarily we have announcements going out as we speak to the effect of, Moonbeam and Acala have opened the first bidirectional HRMP channels on top of Polkadot. And so what this means, at least for now, is that the ACA and AUST tokens can now be, deposited on the Moonbeam side, used in the Moonbeam applications that are live today. And Glimmer will also be available in Acala in about a couple of weeks. We have just one more thing we're pushing out. And so with this update, I think, it's important to kind of note not just what Dan said about Karura really being, our testing ground for a lot of these things. For those who haven't kept up to date with kind of the movements on Kusama, there are a great many XCM connections that have already happened there and have been happening for the past 4 months. And so being able to do that and to kind of work through the kinks of, passing governance on each chain, because there is a governance proposal on both sides of the equation for this, to test token movement between the chains, to test integrations and things like dApps that allow users to deposit the tokens and so forth. This has been all really critical for us as we've been able to test it on Kusama, and that has allowed us to launch it so quickly after XCM was introduced, which I'm sure most of you know was only last week. And so I think that this is really a first of what you guys will probably grow very tired of seeing, in the sense of there will be many XCM connections happening now. And then, of course, as the cross-chain technology matures and as Polkadot releases more updates, there will be even richer interactions between these chains. So things that go beyond kind of token movement and include, what we like to refer to as these multi-chain dApp scenarios, where you have components of different parachains built into one cohesive app. So we're really looking forward to this. This is kind of the first foray for XCM on Moonbeam. We do also have a Statemint integration coming up soon, as I'm sure other parachains do as well. So we're looking forward to being able to launch all of these things. And honestly, we've had 2 announcements already today, and it's only 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. So it's been pretty busy, but hopefully we will get all this stuff up and running, and you'll see a lot of really interesting interactions between the parachains start to brew in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. I personally am really looking forward to all the brewing that is going on now and will continue to happen. For those joining that maybe just joined in or isn't familiar with what happened a week ago, we have Sean Tabrizi here to discuss because 1 week ago, Polkadot was upgraded to enable HRMP channels. That is the ability for parachains to open up pair channels with other parachains and send messages and transfer one another. So that's what Dan and Katie are talking about, that now Acala and Moonbeam will be opening up, I think, the first channel. Actually, I don't think it will be the first channel on Polkadot, and then there's just a cornucopia of use cases that they will be continuing to roll out in the next couple of weeks, as well as with other parachains on the network. So, without further ado, let's hand it over to Sean Tabrizi to talk about XCM and its capabilities, what it enables, what is this thing that was added a week ago.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, so I mean, I just want to remind people, like we with Polkadot, we're really trying to solve like 3 different problems here, like interoperability, scalability, and shared security. And we've been showing shared security and scalability through the onboarding of parachains, through this whole auction process, through our validators, pool, and staking that we've built. But now we're really trying to touch on the interoperability part. This is what the XCM and the HRMP channels and XCMP is all trying to provide. So to break it down kind of into 2 pieces, Polkadot as a protocol provides a way for chains to kind of send arbitrary blobs to each other. So you can send a random message, you can send messages to each other, and that kind of has this opaque, like we don't really care what you send, but we give you the ability to send those messages over the Polkadot network. What XCM is doing is turning those like arbitrary like bytes into a specific language that we think is going to be flexible and comfortable for chains to use to do all their most common things. And you can imagine if you're trying to create an interoperable blockchain ecosystem, a lot of that's going to be like DeFi, like trading tokens, but then there's going to be things like, participating in governance within other chains, being able to do things like, look at other chains for identity sources. Pretty much anything you can imagine that unlocks the ability for these chains to not just be individual entities, but actually combine and work together. And so what we've basically done in the last week is basically enable these chains to start making those connections, to start passing messages. And XCM has been something that we've already been in development for quite a while. Right now we're on V2, we're even working on V3 right now. And this is continually just iterating on the language that we want these parachains to use. We think will be useful for them to be able to communicate and do all of the awesome next generation interoperability you can expect from the Web3 ecosystem we're building at Polkadot. And so I think the main takeaway here is that like this is very much the beginning. The channels are open up. The language is still in development. I think we're going to learn a lot, and the community is going to learn a lot, like how XCM is being used and how we can improve it. And I think just like any other, agile development space, we're going to continue to iterate and make it better and make it more usable for everyone. The other thing I wanted to talk about besides XCM was also the parachain swap. So I can't believe it. It's already been a year since the first auctions on Kusama, and as you may know, that the slots that we were auctioning off were for 1 full year. So a lot of the teams right now, we're thinking about, okay, how am I going to continue my parachain slot without getting any downtime and continuing moving forward? And so basically we had a few teams re-participate in the auctions that just happened recently and secure new slots. And through parachain swaps, they were able to, without any downtime, continue the lease of their existing parachains and keep it moving forward. So all the teams see here, like, it's Karura and Moon River and all that kind of stuff, they were all able to secure new slots, be able to extend their lease and continue to have an active parachain running on Polkadot. But I think that's just the tip of the iceberg, what's possible here. This swap is actually a much more flexible tool, which I'm excited to see be used more in the future. Basically, you can imagine that any 2 parachains or any 2 para objects, so there's parachains and para threads, can swap between each other. So if there are secondary markets where, I got a parachain auction when the market was low, but then Polkadot starts getting, a lot of use case and getting a parachain slot is worth a lot more, you could even imagine some investors or whatever buying and then selling parachain slots to teams. Or you can have, for example, if a parachain, has an idea but didn't quite work out and they want to transition the project to something else, you can also use swaps again to switch, the lease periods of the parachain slots to other teams. So I think that parachain swaps right now is being used to continue keeping the parachains that we see on Kusama alive. But I think there's going to be a lot more future use cases in terms of basically secondary markets, of how you can treat a parachain slot as a commodity and how the market will use that and react to that. And again, it's really exciting in this space because, the markets basically can decide, whatever they want to do, whatever's best for them. So yeah, that's kind of the stuff I want to touch on. Thanks all for listening.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, that was super interesting. I don't know if some of you guys have seen, like Sean said, I saw Moonbeam and Karura and other parachains tweeted that they were just simply able to migrate their slot from one auction that they their previous lease slot, to their new auction lease slot without any downtime. And in this day and age in the blockchain ecosystem, you don't see a lot of chains that can do a lot of things with no downtime. So I think that's very cool about Polkadot. Thank you for joining, Sean, and thank you for giving an overview of XCM as well. This is super exciting stuff. Like Sean said, we are just at the very beginning, but when it comes to XCM, but nevertheless, it is here, and the ability for parachains to communicate with one another is just now being enabled, and that really ends these blockchain silos that other networks experience. So another step in the right direction for Polkadot, and obviously Kusama had this functionality already as the Canary network, but really exciting stuff. Up next, we have Joe Petrowski. Joe here is the protocol integrations engineer over at Web3 Foundation, and he's also one of the lead developers that coded Statemint, a common good parachain on Polkadot, and also its equivalent Statemint on Kusama. Joe, last Wednesday, Statemint was added to Polkadot. Oh, sorry, no. Last Wednesday, Statemint was upgraded at the same time XCM was added with a batch call, and that really enabled a lot of the functionality on Statemint. And I thought maybe you could talk about what is Statemint, and then also what was enabled last Wednesday.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emily. So Statemint is a common good parachain, like you said, and it's dedicated to the creation and management of fungible and non-fungible assets. So you could kind of think of it as like a home base for a lot of assets. And, Sean already talked about XCM. There's some of the kind of like inner details about how it actually transfers assets between chains. And one of these details is like this reserve-backed transfer. So rather than like destroying an asset on one chain and minting it on another, one chain would actually keep a reserve account for all of the chains that it interacts with. So it would kind of know like, well, I've sent this much of my assets to Acala, this much to Moonbeam, and so on. And so when it comes to like asset issuers who might deploy like fiat-backed stablecoins or something, they might have these queries like, well, how do we know how much of our asset actually exists in the entire Polkadot network? And because Statemint has all of these reserve accounts for the other parachains that it's interacted with, it has an accounting of like how much of this token exists in the entire ecosystem. So like all this XCM stuff is really great for application developers and parachains to be able to harness the ability on multiple chains, but it can actually make a lot of things like indexing and auditing quite hard. So Statements, at least for assets that kind of come from like some creator and aren't necessarily part of a core protocol, like the DOT token or one of like the parachain native tokens, this is a place where they kind of, it's like a home base for assets. And this is for fungible and non-fungible assets. So that's the core functionality with it. And then along with the upgrade, as far as like the assets functionality was concerned, it was actually kind of like already, it's been audited, it's been live on Statemint for, I guess it's getting close to a year now since we launched Statemint, and we were actually just waiting for XCM to go live. And so, because you do need DOT to pay transaction fees to place as a deposit to mint assets, and so we couldn't really use Statemint until we had DOT on Statemint, and we needed XCM to be audited before we could enable teleporting DOT over there. So the upgrade was actually a lot more about XCM. Most of the accomplishments were on the XCM side, and it kind of just opened the door for Statemint to get up to full functionality.
Yeah, you touched on a really good point there that, like Statemint and other parachains in the ecosystem, XCM and functionality is needed for the parachains themselves to realize their potential. And so with the addition of XCM, you were able then to send DOT to the relay chain. And that's crucial for a chain like Statemint where you're minting assets, right? So great. And now that Statemint can mint assets like NFTs, you said non-fungible tokens, as well as tokens and other assets, and send DOT to the relay chain. What is next for Statemint?
Yeah, so as usual, most of the kind of bleeding edge stuff happens on the Kusama network, and so in this case, it's Statemint. And we've had, I guess, for a month or two now, quite a few channels open with other parachains on Statemint, and we're also getting the first sufficient assets. So I think it just passed like 2 or 3 days ago that Remark is now a sufficient token on Statemint, and so that's pretty cool. It lets us do a lot of things like users will be able to pay transaction fees with Remark. They'll also be able to have accounts with Remark on it and not need to have KSM. So you can basically have an account on Statemint with just Remark and pay transaction fees and use that account pretty much normally. And so some of the next stuff that's coming up is, of course, like working out the bugs. This is all quite new. So someone pointed out a couple of days ago that you could pay transaction fees using sufficient tokens directly, but you couldn't do it via an XCM message. So some fixes like that are coming in. There are also a couple PRs open today for some improvements to the uniques palette. So there's going to be some like new features coming to NFTs, partly just kind of like updating standards or updating naming to be more in line with other adopted standards. And then also the ability to sell and trade NFTs directly on Statemint. So those are coming up quite soon, and they'll make their way. I said Statemint, I meant Statemint, and then after they get audited and tried out a little bit on Statemint, will of course make their way over to Statemint. And I think in the immediate future, we've already had 5 teams request HRMP channels with Statemint this week, and so I will be looking to have a motion to return those because when they're common good chains, they should be pretty liberal about who they open channels with. So we'll be putting together a motion to go to governance to accept basically all the channel requests with Statements and start to get some cross-chain applications going on Polkadot.
Excellent. Yeah, that's you touched on a really good point there. So previously we discussed Moonbeam and Acala and how they are opening up a channel. And so that channel, that HRMP channel, is passed on their parachains governance to be opened. But when you would like to open up an HRMP channel with Statemint, a common good parachain on the network, then it needs to go through the governance process of Polkadot. So while you have 5 chains that have requested to open up channels with Statemint, those will all be going through governance before the channels is open. So in true decentralization. So Joe, lastly, I just briefly wanted to discuss shared security. For those on crypto Twitter recently, you may have seen some things about blockchain hacks, and it may make you feel wondering, how does Polkadot stop this? If I have my money on Polkadot, is there a plan in place, or is there something that makes Polkadot a little bit more secure? And I wouldn't say more secure, but with shared security, can you discuss what is currently happening if it would affect assets on other parachains like it is on other networks?
Something happened?
Yeah, Joe, did I cut out?
No, just kidding. Yeah, so it's not so much about like more security. It's about having like common guarantees or contextual guarantees about the messages that you're, like the provenance of messages that you're receiving, and how you act on them. So anytime you receive a message from another consensus system, you have to kind of decide how much do I believe this message to be true. So for example, if one chain says like, well, we made this transfer of some asset from account A to account B, And now, like, we're sending this message to your chain so that account B can do something in your application. Well, you have to actually believe that that asset was transferred from account A to account B. And if the chain that sent the message were to be attacked and reverted, the kind of classic double spend attack, then you could act on that message. If you trust the message incorrectly, then you could believe that the transfer has taken place and grant account B whatever privilege or access to the application because you believe that that transfer had taken place, when in fact the state had been reverted. And what happens in Polkadot is basically everybody advances together or everybody reverts together. So we kind of hope that state will never be reverted. And if it were to be reverted, then it would be massive slashing, like basically 100% slashes across the majority of the validator set. But so we kind of assume that won't happen, and that's the idea behind proof of stake and deterministic finality and grandpa and all the slashing mechanisms and all of that stuff. But the core idea here is that you would never have the state where one parachain gets reverted and the other ones don't. So if you receive a message from another parachain, you don't have to worry about having finalized your state and acted on that message when in fact that message was of faulty provenance or something happened to the chain that sent the message. So you get guarantees on the context of the message that it was basically sent in good faith, if you will.
Thank you, Joe. Did you cut out? I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for that explanation, Joe. Yeah, really appreciate it. Up next, we have Momentum, and that is the team behind Kusamaverse, essentially Kusama's, well, what I'm calling Kusama's metaverse, and to talk about the Kusamaverse.
Hi, thanks for having me. So first, let me tell a little bit about the background, then dive into what the Kusamaverse actually is, and then looking a bit forward towards the launch of May 24th. So Odyssey, we're the producer of Momentum, which is 3D world building software, basically, where you can build 3D worlds in that are browser based and where you have complete physical freedom as well as utility. So where does this utility come from and why is it important? Before COVID, we organized the largest physical hackathon in Europe, the Odyssey hackathon, where we brought together the institutional world and the Web3 world. So all kinds of sectors. Also, we had a partnership already with Parity and many of the Web3 initiatives. And bringing 3,000 people together in one space and enabling them to collaborate and co-create and achieve actual results obviously wasn't going to happen in 2020. We knew already that online hackathons kind of suck, and so when we went for the scenario to go digital, we applied MMO to co-creation and collaboration, and it worked. We had thousands of people from across the world coordinate and collaborate together and achieve results, and many good projects came from that. So utility is very much of the core of the purpose of the software, and we believe that nowadays this utility is missing from a lot of metaverse spaces. So when we took this stack forward, we together with some of the people we already knew in the .sama ecosystem said, okay, can we bring not just online utility but also on-chain utility to the metaverse? So we have written the proposal for the Treasury. We're very grateful that we were enabled by the Treasury and Council to work on this project. And it's the first milestone. And what we did in the first milestone is really visualize the relay chain. And it's it would be amazing to share already the screens with you, but this is of course on the community launch of the 24th. So you literally see the relay chain, the blocks being validated, and exactly which validator is validating the exact block. You see everything happening, not just an animation, but really on chain. All the on-chain action is happening there. From this space, you can also stake in the metaverse. So on-chain activity will be made accessible directly in the metaverse. Then we provide a special space for operators, the independent entities that run the validator nodes, so that you can stake in a bit of a more social way. Instead of just selecting your validators from a list based on certain metrics, you can now go to someone's space where they can express themselves, host gatherings, and build engagement with their nominators. You can basically say, hey, I like you, I want to nominate your node, and add this node to my, let's say, staking the validator set that I'm gathering here. What is also there is the community spaces where gatherings are taking place. So we are working already with ambassadors, the 1000 Validator program, the Substrate Builders program, the governance working group, etc., to give them the spaces where they can host meetings. And in these spaces, they are fully tailored to already collaboration. So they have they're packed with features like collective whiteboards, Google Workspace, but also a stage mode, which is basically Twitter Spaces in the metaverse. And there's also the spaces for the parachains. That is kind of placeholders, but they also have a fully fledged meeting space over there. So we are working already with many operators and validator nodes. We're working already with a lot of ambassadors as well as parachain teams to basically set up the foundation of this democratic heart of this ecosystem. And in the next milestones, we can continue to expand that. So imagine all the utility brought by all the parachains being made accessible in the metaverse through a completely composable metaverse building system. So that's the longer term perspective. So would love to invite you to the community launch on May 24th. And if you want to have a little bit of an earlier access, check our Discord because we're obviously testing a lot before that community launch.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Thank you so much for joining. And as you mentioned, it will be, a space for the Validator Lounge and the Ambassador community and the 1000 validators and, just really essentially everything, as well as a space for the parachains and so on. And it's so hard to talk about without showing visuals. So I encourage everyone to go follow their social media, and from there you can join their Discord. You can just click on their Twitter here in the space and follow them and stay up to date, and don't miss the May 24th event, because this will be the place for all of you guys the community to essentially gather for governance, for staking, for validation, or validators, I should say, not validation. It sounds so metaphoric.
Yeah. One last remark. I want to express my gratitude for all the people in this community that are helping us understanding how things work and make it more accessible for a lot more people. So it's been amazing to work with all those validators, with the ambassadors, with the parachain team so far to get this project off the ground.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know if you mentioned it, but I was on a meetup with you Monday night that this Kusamaverse is entirely open source, and that going forward, it's anyone can actually contribute to it. So it is not, it's not a closed thing. Anyone can go in there and build whatever they want to build in there.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining the call today and sharing that with the community. And again, everyone, mark your calendars for May 24th, because that's when you can meet in the metaverse on Kusama.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Santi, it's over to you to discuss Square One.
All right, thank you, and hello everybody. Yeah, so I'm Santi, and I would like to share with you one of this a very new initiative that we recently released right into the wild. It's called Square One, and so the idea here is that the Polkadot ecosystem in itself it's quite vast, right? It's very very big, and it really offers a lot of different possibilities for people and individuals to build and contribute to the ecosystem. And we understand that sometimes it's hard to know how to navigate all of this. So we created Square One, aiming for it to work. This will sound metaphoric as well, but sort of like a lighthouse there for projects, teams, individual contributors to best navigate through all the possibilities that this ecosystem has to offer. Maybe by now, some of you probably heard about the Substrate Builders program or the Web3 Foundation grants as key points of entry to building with Substrate and on Polkadot, but really there's much more than that. Square One works with all these different initiatives in order to help teams decide where's best to start and to help them with their applications to these particular initiatives. Team, projects, individuals, whatever that could be, have different needs and usually are in different stages, and there is why this new Square One initiative plays a very key role. So Square One works, for example, with education projects in the Polkadot ecosystem that can arm teams with deeper understanding of Substrate and Polkadot. And it also then works with hackathons where maybe these individuals can go and pitch their ideas and build POCs or even like find team members for building their dream and new exciting project, right? It also works with incubators and accelerators that are very, very well versed in the Web3 space and in the Polkadot ecosystem. So if a team is maybe at an earlier stage and needs to incubate a bit more their ideas, or it needs at the end to accelerate and go full into their market deployment, we've got incubators and accelerators as well that we work with. Maybe you have a cool idea, right, that can be pitched to the Polkadot community and get some funding for the treasury, where Square One can help with that. Or even maybe you've got the idea, you've got the funding, but you're lacking the development resources, and therefore we can put you in touch with dev shops that know Substrate that can help you build your project. Of course, on top of all of this, it does also work and makes interaction with the Substrate Builders program and the Web3 Foundation grants. And more than anything, I think that it's an ever-evolving project where we try to get as many initiatives as possible and help the ecosystem understand what they do and what they work best for. The way that Square One works is quite straightforward. There's no magic here. And the idea is that individuals or teams can apply directly to Square One via a very simple form. You can find it on the Substrate website. And from there, we'll meet you. We'll try to understand what you're building and discuss all together what we think is the right move to make. After jointly deciding what is the best next step, we'll help you on board in that direction and get you ready to apply to that underlying initiative. The end goal of Square One here is that you can build that first iteration of a project. You can get it, you can see it with your eyes, and then get that POC or MVP all the way down to a full fleshed out project in the Polkadot ecosystem. So it's not magic. It's just a congregation of different things, but it's amazing how many things the ecosystem has to offer. So I'm more than happy to welcome everybody here to just apply. Let's sit down. Let's have a talk. Let's understand what your needs are and how we can best help you, and let's just go for it. Square One is mostly here to help you and everybody else.
Thank you, Santi. You briefly touched on it, but can you tell them how they can apply?
Yes, for sure. So if you go to the Substrate website, and I guess we'll be sharing this link afterwards, but substrate.io is the website. There's a section for Square One. In that section, it's in Ecosystem Square One. In that section, you're going to be able to see a Get in Touch button, which gives you a very simple form that you need to fill out so that we can get the information and get in contact with you. But on top of that, you're going to see the list of all these different initiatives that are there so that you can look into them beforehand and try to understand as well from your perspective what you think is best. But again, it's quite straightforward. It's just submitting that form and we'll just get in touch with you and coordinate a call.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Santi. And yes, as Santi said, there'll be a tweet thread going out tomorrow following this Twitter space, because a lot of things are mentioned here. A lot of teams are mentioned here, links and important references. So we'll make sure to get that out tomorrow. So check back on Polkadot social media for that. Otherwise, for Square One, if that's something that's of interest to you right now, you can just simply go to substrate.io and there is a tab, as Santi said, for Square One and just apply already.
Cool. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing a lot of applications from you guys.
Yes, thank you, Santi. Up next, we have Supercolony joining us today to discuss their Wasm Conference that was funded by the Treasury that will be happening soon.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Toma. I'm Supercolony Market Growth Lead. Today I represent Supercolony. We are a venture studio. We create, fund, and support crypto companies. Our main goal is converting the business idea to real working companies with the high market capitalization, but we did not forget about ecosystem development, about market in general. So first of all, I have a confidence about Wasm that it will be in the public eye for the next 2-3 years. And we see a huge gap in the knowledge, understanding the vision for the whole community in this sphere. And as Gavin Wood once said, WebAssembly is the future, but legacy VM is right now, right? But I think the future is coming, and we should build the necessary condition to speed up this process. So how it was born in the Wasm conference, more than 10 months ago, we created OpenBrush. It's a tool for smart contract development. It was the first step for ecosystem growth for Wasm. Now we created the next step. It's a Wasm conference. So Wasm Conference is a one-day virtual event dedicated to Polkadot smart contracts. It will be on 31st of May, so the last day of this month. We will bring top parachains, prospects, and builders together to create the future of Polkadot. The main goal of the Wasm Conference is to grow the ecosystem, accelerate innovations to make the usage of smart contracts more efficient and faster without worrying about potential hard forks. That is why we attract main stakeholders and key market players to this conference to develop the Polkadot ecosystem. There will be more than 20 speakers. Will be Parity, Acala, Astar, Acala Network, Remorka Team, Subspace, Pendulum, Subwallet, Asylum, and more companies. Moreover, we believe that the attendees could help the grow ecosystem by resolving relevant issues, acceleration, innovation, and attracting more top talented to Polkadot ecosystem. So yeah, at the conference, you will understand why you will be left or boarded without going to Wasm. And by the way, we created bounty programs so everyone can share experience and contribute to the community growth while early rewards. So you could do a lot of the things like write articles about Wasm, make a video, or even create the NFT. So NFT giveaway will come in a few days. So follow us and see some news that will be just in a few days. So see you everyone in 31st of May. By the way, I want to mention that I'm actually right now on Blockdown conference, and you know what? Polkadot community made some noise here.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. So as Toma said, you can simply follow them on social media, head over, check out their conference. It will be happening on the 31st of May to hear the latest of Wasm and what's happening with Polkadot and Wasm and so on and so forth. You don't want to miss it. And again, this will also be shared tomorrow in case you forget all of these links and all of these places. Up next, we have Imbue Network, and please correct me how to pronounce.
No, you're right.
I'm
correct.
right.
Imbue.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
well
excellent.
done. Hi, thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Sam Elamine. I'm the founder of Imbue Network. Essentially, what Imbue is, it's decentralized Kickstarter. We saw during the past 18 months, one of the biggest frustrations in the communities has been the lack of accountability. Right, so many projects in the space launch with a white paper. And unfortunately, more often than not, they don't deliver, and it ends up with the community feeling left out, right? Because there's nothing of substance that was delivered. But at the same time, we want to empower people to join Web3. The only way we go towards mass adoption is if we have a safer space where outside people looking in don't see just speculation and lack of utility. So the way Imbue works is you define your project, you define an idea, you define whatever idea you need funding. But the difference between us and virtually every other launchpad or or even Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and GoFundMe is you have to define milestones. You have to define what you're going to do. And in return, when people fund you, if you have a good reward, you will get funded based on your own definitions. So if you ask for 100,000 and 10% immediately, you get that 10%. The remainder of those funds remain locked. And that's how we ensure accountability by the blockchain. They will remain locked until the initiator decides or submits their milestone. And that only the people who have funds at risk, only the people who really have skin in the game, get to vote on that progress. So initially, the initiators are incentivized to continue delivering because they know that's the only way they're going to get funds. And that's how we protect people. And sometimes, projects fail. This is a new space. Projects can fail for any particular reason. A force majeure event, I can ask for funds to open up a shop to sell shoes, and then something out of my hands like COVID hits, and the government tells me to shut up shop. So when that happens, the contributors, the people with money at risk, can basically say, "Look, we want to raise a vote of no confidence," and if that passes, then those locked funds go back to the original contributors. And the beauty of this is they're protected, right? And really, this can finally convince people who are out of Web3 because it gives them opportunities that just don't exist where they are. A farmer who lives in Africa might not have the opportunity to get funded from wherever they are, but using Web3 they can, right? And that's how we're driving real accountability. And the last thing I'll say is how important accountability and transparency for us, and how easy it is to build on Polkadot and Substrate. We decided that we're not getting it funded at all. We're not getting funded at all. No one's funded us until we launch a working product, until we launch on Kusama. And we're very, very close to launch. We actually announced the testnet on Monday, so people can actually utilize the product. This way, we ensure accountability because the community can never get hurt if we don't deliver something that delivers real value or real utility from day one. So, I urge everyone to go use us and let us know what is the product that produces value to you as the community, but ensures safety. And yeah, I'm also part of the Substrate developer group on Telegram. So please join us. We absolutely need more Substrate developers here. And there's just so many resources out there. You have no idea how easy it is and flexible it is to build via Substrate compared to using smart contracts. So absolutely get involved. This space will just grow and grow. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining the call today. What you guys are building, it goes without saying, is a really cool initiative. It definitely is niche, and it's something, has a need. It is fixing a need or a want in the blockchain ecosystem as a whole, like you said. So really cool stuff. Thank you for joining the Substrate Builders program and joining the call today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we look forward to what Imbue is going to bring first to Kusama, like you said.
Exactly. If you allow me one thing about Kusama, we hear a lot of questions about why Kusama. Why should I launch on Kusama? As a software engineer, I can tell you, out of all the blockchains in the space, the defining best practice in software engineering is to deploy to different environments to gain confidence in what you're shipping. So Polkadot is unique among all the other chains because it gives you that confidence that what you're doing is actually what is right. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. That's what gives Polkadot. Kusama is what gives Polkadot its confidence, for sure. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. Up next, we have Nova Wallet and Anton, specifically from Nova Wallet, to discuss their wallet, their recent features, and what's next for Nova.
All right. Hey, everyone. Happy to be here. So my name is Anton, and I'm from Nova Wallet team. And for more than 2 years, I think, we have devoted ourselves to build iOS and Android mobile applications and all required tooling for developing in Polkadot. We believe that client-facing apps like Nova are playing one of the crucial roles in both ecosystem development and user adoption. So our goal is to provide super convenient access from mobile to unlimited opportunities on Polkadot. So What's Nova Wallet? Nova Wallet is basically funded by Kusama Treasury, and Nova is one of the most advanced applications for Polkadot ecosystem. Right now, we support around 14 networks, I believe. So all Kusama parachains, all Polkadot parachains, and some of the ecosystem networks, which are kind of considered as a solo chains right now. We also provide access to all the assets management in these networks. Like if you open Nova Wallet and open like Karura Network or Moonriver Network, you will need to scroll to see and manage all their assets because there are too many of them already. We also support NFTs, provide convenient way to participate in crowd loans and track the contributions to them. Also to stake natively on-chain DOT and KSM tokens, as well as explore the whole spectrum of Polkadot ecosystem dApps in mobile format. The last one actually is pretty exciting because it allows you to connect your mobile app to any dApp in the ecosystem, even UVM-based like Moonbeam application, for example, because we implemented not only Polkadot JS extension protocol, but the MetaMask one. So as for plans and status, we have just completed our Kusama Treasury proposal, and now we are working to bring the Moonbeam and Moonriver staking into the native interface and mobile format. As well as we are working on researching the cross-chain transfers. Specifically, we'll start between Moonbeam, Acala, Statemint, and Polkadot, and then we will grow and scale across all other networks. So we are planning to roll out these two major features in upcoming months. And once they're done, we will proceed with next Kusama Treasury proposal. Now, I have a little like call to action to the community. We are now in the process of eliciting the feature ideas and suggestions. So feel free to propose any idea or any like desirable feature that you would like to see in Nova Wallet, and we will definitely consider to include it in our next Kusama Treasury proposal. And in addition to that, if you would like to have your favorite dApp, token, or even whole network to be integrated in Nova Wallet, just let us know. Nova is advanced enough to add new networks on the fly if they meet technical requirements. So it's pretty easy and it's done like in less than an hour. I think that would be it from my side. So feel free to join our community and let us know how we can make Nova Wallet even better. Cheers.
Thank you, Anton. Now, you right there at the end mentioned that you want community feedback on what kind of features that they would like to see, as well as if they have a favorite dApp and or they are a dApp that would maybe want to be integrated in Nova Wallet. How is it best for them to get in contact with you? Is it following you on social media, joining a Discord? Where should they send these requests?
Yeah, that's a great question. I forgot to mention this. You can find any social links on our website. By the way, we are in the process of updating this, so soon it should be looking much more better than now. But still, you can find the Telegram link, and probably the best way to contact us would be the Telegram, right? We also have a chat in Element. And yeah, you can basically propose the feature request anywhere, but we also have specifically a website like novawallet.kenya.io. I think it's now pinned in the Twitter space, right? So you can review all the feature suggestions from the community members as well as propose your own one.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And again, everyone, in case you missed that, if you have a feature that you would like to be added to Nova Wallet, or you have a dApp you would like to be added, make sure to join their Telegram and let them know, and they'll be happy to include it in their next Treasury proposal. Speaking of Treasury proposals, everyone get out your pens and paper or however you take notes these days on a Remarkable or iPad, because we have Raul, Polkadot and Council member here, to discuss the governance proposals, referenda, motions, and Treasury proposals for the past month. And let's just say last month was a big month when it comes to governance.
Hey everyone. Hi Emily, how are you? Thank you for inviting me again. I know every time I say this when I'm on this call, but it's been a really, really hectic month for Kusama and Polkadot governance. As always, I'm going to divide this in two sections, Kusama Network and Polkadot Network, and inside of each of these categories on governance proposals and treasury proposals. These are not all of the proposals we voted in the council and in the community side of things, but just a selection of the most interesting ones. You also will listen that some of the topics have already been mentioned here, but it's worth mentioning again because some of the proposals are still up for vote, so you can still go and vote. Let's start with Kusama first, the Canary Network. I will start with the governance proposals and with two particular proposals that will definitely set a precedent on governance proposals when it comes to common good chains, and this is the remark sufficiency proposal and the USDT sufficiency proposal. These were both submitted as external motions and were approved by council, and after this needed to be approved by the community in order to be enacted successfully. Now, remark sufficiency proposal was already successfully approved. It was approved and it's now on dispatch queue, ready to be enacted in the next days. The USDT sufficiency proposal is still up for vote for the next 4 days as referendum 197. If you go to the democracy module, you will be able to access the contextual information on the Polk Assembly link, get the information you need in order to vote, ask the questions in the direction channel or in Polk Assembly, and then cast your vote. For those who do not know what sufficiency is, as Joe mentioned before, many of you might know that in order for an account to exist on Kusama, the same on Polkadot, there is this thing that is called existential deposit, right? So this existential deposit is a very small portion on Kusama tokens that allow your address to exist. Now on Statemint, this is also required for addresses to be able to exist. But with an approved sufficiency call, the remark token, for example, will be able to fulfill this condition of sufficiency without an account holder having Kusama tokens on his or her address. The same is supposed to happen with USDT sufficiency if the proposal is approved. So make sure to go review the proposal and make sure you cast your vote. On the Kusama runtime side of things, we've had two upgrades, 0919 and 0920. Now 0919 was already enacted successfully, and this included things like, for example, the really, really awaited child bounties ballot. The child bounties ballot allows us to divide, or allows curators more than us to divide the total allocation of bounties allocations into different smaller ones in order to pay out for work that has already been done without having to close the entire bounty. And so what child bounties allows us to do is to finally fulfill the ultimate goal of bounties ballot, which is to budget the treasury. So you should be expecting new proposals soon to start budgeting the treasury in different categories on both Kusama and Polkadot. And 0920, interestingly, is up for vote right now, and it's referendum 195. It will be voted for the next 18 hours, and you can find all of the contextual information of what it's added in this runtime upgrade on the Polka Assembly post as well. Something related to these releases, but not directly related on the governance side of things, is the client upgrades that also happened on 0919 and 0920. If you remember, in our last call, we talked about the block degradation issues that a lot of parachains were seeing on Kusama. Well, with 0919 and 0920 client upgrades, we've seen a really nice reduction on block time degradation issues as validators keep upgrading. So operators keep upgrading those validators so we can see more improvements. We thank teams that have been working on these client releases in order for parachain teams to have more normal block times. So thank you so much for that. And then my third governance proposal that I want to talk about is what Sean already talked about, so I'm going to go really quickly on it. The swap to new leases for Karura, Moon River, and Acala. They all have been enacted successfully, so congratulations to the parachain teams. And also Shiden, which was the last parachain to have to swap before LP20 ends. The motion was approved today by council, and we're waiting to be voted on the democracy module by the community. So if this is approved, then Shiden will be able to swap as well. Let's go to Kusama Treasury. There are two things I want to mention here. One is already being enacted and approved, and the other one is up for vote right now. The first one is that Gilbert's Polkadot for Beginners, a non-technical guide to decentralization, blockchains, and Polkadot, a book that was funded 100% by Treasury and written by Gilbert from their Mark team, is now accessible to everyone in and outside the Polkadot ecosystem. You can find it in Singular as an NFT for free. You can read it for free, or you can download the PDF if you want. We're going to share all of the links after the call, but I think the guys will also be sharing some of the tweets here for you to access this information. It is a great resource for the community to be able to understand what blockchains are, what decentralization means, what is the Web3 vision, but also especially what Polkadot and Kusama are as networks and what they promise, which is a fantastic resource for non-technical people. So thank you to Gilbert for doing that. And the second Treasury proposal is the Karura liquidity proposal for AUSD, which Dan has been talking about at the beginning. This is up for vote by the community right now as referendum 198. You can also find the link to Polk Assembly on the democracy module, read about it, ask your questions, or join the direction channel and ask your questions there. It's been a few days since this is being discussed as well in the direction channel, so make sure you cast your vote. Let's go to Polkadot Relay Chain. Well, let's start with governance proposals. On the Polkadot runtime side of things, we have upgraded to version 9190, which includes, as we said before, the same as Kusama child bounties, swap slots, as Sean mentioned before, but it also enables XCM functionality, which Joe was talking about it earlier today. This will allow HRMP channels to be able to be open between parachains and between parachains and common good chains, which is really, really exciting. Linked to this particular proposal, also Statemint version 900 upgrade happened. This enabled the functionality of teleporting, opening HRMP channels with Statemint, and also perform all assets and NFTs as well. So very exciting to see Statemint up and running. Congratulations to Joe and his team. That's very, very exciting. And also associated with this particular opening of HRMP channels, there was a proposal that was submitted by Joe for lowering the channel's deposit from 20,000 DOT to 10 dots. So this will allow much more flexibility and accessibility for parachains to be able to open their channels with HRMP. On the Treasury side of things, I want to mention 4 things. The first is 2 motions that were already enacted: the maintenance proposals for Dweller and on finality for the service of RPC nodes on Polkadot JS apps and other applications for the community. This is public infrastructure. As you might know, since the last call, we talked about maintenance proposals and what they are. These proposals enable teams that build public infrastructure to be able to request funds to cover maintenance and cost for a runway of 3 or 6 months. This has just been approved for these 2 teams for the next 3 months. So we thank them for their service, and we're excited to have them in the ecosystem. And then the other 2 Treasury proposals I want to talk about is the Polkadot ecosystem at Davos proposal, which is a very interesting proposal, a coalition of teams that is led by the Web3 Foundation, Moonbeam, Affinity, Kilt, Origin Trail, Robonomics, and BitCountry have submitted a proposal to cover the cost of organization and participation of Polkadot ecosystem as a whole in Davos 2022. For those who don't know what Davos is the World Economic Forum, in order to build Polkadot awareness among policymakers, business executives, CEOs, top-tier journalists and technologists, to create interest and establish strong relationship with them, and also to present Polkadot products, network platforms, and solutions. So for those that were requesting marketing and communications proposals to be able to create awareness about Polkadot and Kusama Network, this is your chance to go and support in the discussion post about this proposal, okay? And then the last proposal I want to talk about is the Chain Have. Let me see if I can find it here. The Chain Have and Texas blockchain proposal that is also up for discussion, enabling common good infrastructure at university and blockchain clubs across the world. The proposer of this is a professor and engineer at the University of Texas, Austin, and he's proposing the request of an allocation to set up and enable infrastructure in blockchain clubs in 50 universities and colleges around the United States in order to teach about decentralized infrastructure to students using the Polkadot network. So if you're interested about this proposal, if you think it's a good idea or if you think it's a bad idea as well, go to the discussion post, leave your comments and questions, and then ultimately make sure that you elect council members that will vote on this. As always, you can find us in the Direction channels or in Polk Assembly. You can find us on Telegram as well. Make sure you join the Direction channels to follow the discussions on the direction of both networks. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Raul. I didn't lie. That was a lot. So I hope everyone took notes. No. Like Raul said, all of this information will be made available as well, highlighting everything that happened in the last month in a tweet thread going live tomorrow. But also, as Raul said, make sure to join the governance direction channels on Element. There is also kusama.polkassembly.io and polkadot.polkaassembly.io, and that's where you can join all these discussions, see the motions in real time, and see what's being discussed at any given moment. So make sure to check those out if the governance and referenda and treasury is of interest to you. Last but certainly not least, thank you everyone who is still here hanging with us. It has been a big call, but we appreciate you for sticking around. We have Polkadex, up next.
Thanks, Emily. Hey everyone, I'm Gautam, the co-founder of Polkadex. It's really great to have to speak here. So before I start, I just want to explain what Polkadex is about to the wider audience. So the vision of the Polkadex is to create an application-specific parachain and a blockchain ecosystem where we focus on high-frequency trading. And the main thing that we want to provide is we should enable the high-frequency trading without the custody of assets. So that's the core vision that we are focusing on. And to achieve that, we have made a lot of technical changes in the parachain with the help of Substrate ecosystem and also the Polkadot ecosystem, especially the Substrate Builders program. And we are really excited to see that we got a parachain slot in Polkadot because it really aligns with our vision to create a really big high-frequency trading ecosystem where we get access to all the liquidity and all the other tokens and parachain tokens from the Polkadot ecosystem. And I think overall we are really excited about how the Polkadot community came together to support us in the parachain auction, and we were the biggest we got the biggest dot contribution in the 16th auction, and that really shows that a lot of people believe in Polkadex vision. And I think the immediate next steps for Polkadex is mainly to set up the staking and the collateral selection and all the basic setup required to release our products. And then immediately after that, we'll be focused on collaborating with all the other parachain teams out there who are already part of the Polkadot community to make sure that we open the XCMB channel, which the Polkadot just released, as mentioned earlier in this call. And that's really important for us because with those channels, we'll be able to bring liquidity to and fro from all these parachains and help us bring a really liquid market in the Polkadex ecosystem. And finally, once all these channels are set up, and we'll start with a few channels initially, we make sure that all the other products are working fine. And then we will be releasing the order book to the Polkadex parachain. And and the main thing I want to highlight is for Polkadex, we also have a mainnet, and we intend to have, we initially plan to migrate it to the parachain, but with the new technology that the Substrate team has created a bridge, which basically essentially connects unifies the parachain with the mainnet, and essentially we will have one single ecosystem where the entire the Polkadex community can migrate between the mainnet and the parachain and also get access to all the other parachains through these XCMP channels. And then that really works well with our idea of having a single unified ecosystem where we can provide a high frequency trading exchange. And there have been attempts previously for creating high frequency trading in a blockchain space, but it has not been really successful. But we believe that with our technology, we'll be able to make that happen in reality. and actually, we can focus on an application layer instead of being a protocol. We will be able to build applications on top of the high frequency functionality that we provide into the Polkadot community. And especially all the other parachains can also leverage what we provide, because through these XMP channels, they will be able to place limit orders, market orders, and all the other different types of, financial instruments that we can build on top of this high frequency trading infrastructure that we have built. So that's really exciting because, there are a lot of things that you can do, especially from a mainstream adoption perspective, because right now, the crypto community is really small but growing. But we need more adoption from the mainstream users to make that happen, especially when people come from Web 2.0 to Web 2.3, Web 3.0. Level of experience and the customer experience and the onboarding, the ease of onboarding to be there. But that's only possible when you have such high frequency trading systems, because a lot of people are comfortable trading in centralized exchanges, and we need to educate people that they can have the same level of experience in a decentralized environment. So that's really possible with Polkadex, and that's the vision that we believe in, where we can provide the same level of security as a true decentralized DEX. There is no custody of users. At the same time, we should be able to provide the same level of user experience and ease of onboarding to the users. That's the core. That's the main way in which we can bring in the mainstream adoption to the crypto, and I believe Polkadex is working towards that. And especially with this, the parachain model, we will be able to connect with all the other parachain tokens that amplifies our vision and really helps the Polkadot ecosystem also in that way. We can provide all the high frequency trading infrastructure to all the other parachains, and they get to benefit, from Polkadex also. So yeah, I think before I conclude, I have to say big, thanks to the entire Polkadot community for helping us win the parachain, and we are really excited for the the upcoming releases to the parachain. And I believe our parachain will start generating blocks from June 4th, or somewhere around that. And as soon as that happens, within the next 3 to 4 months, we'll be focusing on setting up the basic environment for the release of our products, and finally we release our products. And the initial few months of the product release, after the product release, we will be focused on making sure that there are no exploits and there are no big blunders that we did with the assumptions that we made, and we completely focus on making sure that we work with the white hats and the ethical hackers to make sure that all the products that we built and all the assumptions that we made while designing the systems are validated. And it is secure enough to go into a production model, especially working with the test nets and also working with other parachain teams in setting up the channels and making sure that all that it's seamless for the end user. And then finally, we'll be focusing on expanding the ecosystem and also connecting with more and more parachains as those functionalities are unlocked in the Polkadot. Yeah, I think that's it for Polkadex. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Gautam, and thank you so much for joining today. And also, not only you, but everyone that joined for today's call. Just to recap, we started off with Dan Reeser from Acala talking about their XCM channel that is going live right now between them and Moonbeam. Then we had Katie from Moonbeam joining us. We had Sean Tabrizi, core engineer, talking about XCM and parachain swapping. A big thanks to Joe Petrowski, protocol integrations lead at Web3 Foundation, who joined to discuss Statemint, as he is one of the core engineers building Statemint and the some of the common good parachains, on Polkadot and Kusama. We had Momentum joining us to discuss their Kusamaverse. Thank you as well for joining. Santi from Parity Tech to talk about Square One. Supercolony joined us to discuss their Wasm Conference. Thank you, Tama, for joining. Imbue joined as well to discuss their network, their niche use case, what they're building, and that they're launching soon on Kusama. We had Anton, founder of Nova Wallet, joining us to discuss their wallet. Thanks to Raul, Polkadot and Kusama council member, who joined and gave us a rundown update of everything that happened on chain on Polkadot and Kusama in terms of governance, referenda, motions, and treasury for the past month. A lot of stuff there. And again, thank you, Gautam, for joining us as well. Since we're 20 minutes over time, we will actually need to skip Q&A for this community call. However, like I said, everything that you heard today will be recapped in a tweet thread. I encourage you guys all to go there and ask any of your questions, as well as each one will have a call to action, right, of how you can get in contact with these specific teams. So also, I encourage you to ask your questions to these teams, whether it be joining their telegrams or following them on Twitter or joining their discords and so on. As for Substrate, Polkadot, and Kusama, I encourage everyone listening, any question you have, whether you think it's big or small, or to head over to substrate.stackexchange.com. That is your go-to place to ask questions about anything related to Substrate, Polkadot, and Kusama. There is also a cornucopia of questions already there. So for all you know, your question is already there answered. So make sure to check that out, and also have it remember that as like your go-to place, and somewhere you can always ask your questions. Web3 Foundation and Parity employees, as well as the core engineers, are in there answering questions on a daily basis, which is super cool. So definitely don't miss this opportunity or the chance to get your questions answered by the engineers. At the same time, Polkadot's newsletter is now live. An update. In addition to substrate.stackexchange.com, there is another URL, polkadot.stackexchange.com. It also leads to the same place, but in case, yes, you can use either one of those URLs. Again, substrate.stackexchange.com or polkadot.stackexchange.com. And lastly, the Polkadot newsletter has been integrated with Twitter. And so you can just see, when you go to our Twitter profile, you can see the Polkadot newsletters. You can subscribe there, and then you'll always be notified every month when our newsletter comes out. So that's a great way to stay up to date with Polkadot as well. And again, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, all of our speakers, all of you guys that stuck with us for an hour and 20 minutes. That's super exciting. I hope you guys learned a lot. And also, I hope if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to ask them, to reach out to the teams. And again, to head over to polkadot.stackexchange.com to get any other questions answered. Or if you just simply want to learn more, scroll through some other people's questions and see some of the answers, and you'll learn a lot. That's how I learn a lot. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next month, the second week of June, for the next edition of the community call. Thanks.